I knew that I had an issue with Xanax. I started having overdoses. I didn't address my grief or those emotions or feelings. And so I just masked it with my drug addiction. I would vomit up my pills and I would take them, the intact pills, and I would retake them. I think that's the moment when I really realized that I was very sick, because this is not what normal people do. Well, my Xanax addiction started right after my husband died. He was killed in the military, and I was prescribed Xanax pretty much right away, and I got addicted to those quickly. I didn't address my grief or those emotions or feelings, and so I just masked it with my drug addiction. It was probably the most hardest time in my life, and it got worse and worse over time, my addiction, because of my tolerance and everything. So I had to take more and more, which was even more dangerous. I started having overdoses. I had a suicide attempt during my addiction. It was really scary. It was very scary. So I was in and out of treatment centers and rehabs and detox facilities. When I would go into those places and I would meet people, and they were also other addicts, their drug of choice was crystal meth. And so that's when I started trying crystal meth, and it eventually progressed. I started snorting it first, and then it slowly progressed to shooting it. I would be in hotel parking lots and hiding out underneath my car because I thought people were out to get me or trying to look for me. It was very scary. It was chaos constantly, and it was very painful, not only physically, but mentally. It was very hard. I knew that I was taking it to mask my pain, but I didn't think that I really had an addiction at the time. When I realized that I was really addicted to Xanax and that I couldn't do this by myself is when I would vomit up my pills, and I would take them, the intact pills, and I would retake them. And I think that's the moment when I really realized that I was very sick, because this is not what normal people do. So I thought I just didn't know how to get out of it. And it wasn't until I met a guy online. His name was Justin. He helped to get me clean off of drugs once he saw how bad off I was. So it took about 2 years for me to fully get sober and taper off of all of my meds. So, in my recovery, I was always really afraid that something could happen and I would go spiraling back, into my old ways or into an addiction. I got a phone call one day. My dad shot himself in the head and survived it in my recovery. And I thought, oh my gosh, this was going to be the reason why I go back into my addiction. And instead of going back into a depression and addiction, I actually was able to move my father into my home and take care of him until he passed away. And I feel really blessed that I was able to care for him in his last days. My perspective on life has changed so much through what I've been through. And I try to share my story online today to help other people who may be in a depression or addiction or going through grief or mental health issues. I try to give them a story that maybe they can relate to and it can inspire them. I know it sounds cliche, but I don't take a lot for granted anymore. I try to live in the moment, and it makes life more beautiful when you do that.